Dear delegates, we are 11 parties away from quorum, 11 parties away. I would also like to make the housekeeping announcement to inform you that all of the in-session documents for Committee 2 have been published, with the exception of the Spanish version for the Budget Working Group. All of the COM docs are now available on the CITES website and the app, including the Budget Working Group, except for Spanish version of the Budget Working Group. So it would be great if you would please take a look during this morning session so that the chair can take them up in the afternoon. Thank you.
Good morning. We are still missing 3 parties to reach quorum, so please, if I can have 3 parties sit down and insert their cards. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. So we will start the morning session. It's the last day today. So we have 11 documents to finish this morning. And I would also like to go through the summary records. And then in the afternoon, we will go to the working group, the in-session documents. Okay, so now I will open 106. Document 106 is submitted by the Standing Committee and reports on the implementation of decisions 18.317 Rev CoP 19 and 19.265. So we are seeking agreement to delete the two decisions. So please look at recommendation 12 in document 106. I open the floor for parties. I open the floor to non-parties and observer organizations. I see no request from the floor. So the committee accepts the deletion of decisions 18.317 Rev CoP 19 and 19.265. And I close this agenda item. Thank you. Okay, next item is 108. 108, submitted by the Standing Committee. So if you look at recommendations in para 30 of document 108, we are required to consider the conclusions and way forward proposed contained in paragraph 27 to 29. And 30 little b was consider the comments received from parties following SC 78 in Annex 2, and also the potential revisions to draft decisions included in Annex 1. And 30 little c, adopt the revised decisions in the annex. I also draw your attention to the comments of the Secretariat on recommending that the Secretariat does not recommend the adoption of the revised decisions. So I open the floor to parties. United Kingdom, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The United Kingdom agrees with the Secretariat and does not support the renewal of decisions 19.268 to 19.271. We believe that these decisions have been implemented as noted in our response to Standing Committee 78, document 78. Opportunities for parties to contribute data in relation to these decisions were available via two notifications. The UK suggests that instead of renewing the decisions, parties with conservation concerns are encouraged to bring them to the attention of the Secretariat or the Plants Committee as and when they arise, rather than needing specific decisions to seek this information again. We also encourage parties to continue working with cosmetic manufacturers to encourage clear labelling of products. Thank you.
European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. And on behalf of the EU and its member states, and we thank the Standing Committee for this document, we disagree with the UK view and the Secretariat's view in that we agree to the amended decisions as set out in Annex 1 and want to highlight to parties that compliance with the exemption requires robust systems to verify that the parts and derivatives of these species in cosmetics generally originate from artificially propagated sources. If we do not agree to the deletions of decisions, as we feel the information provided previously highlighted differences in implementation, and we again highlight the exemption applies only to finished products derived from artificial propagation, and these are the only ones to be considered exempt. Many parties in their responses to the notification did not appear to check for this labelled evidence of artificial propagation. We also note under paragraph 14 some suggestions from the Secretariat on footnotes which could assist with the implementation. We feel this is a good idea but needs further discussion within the Plants Committee. Thank you.
United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The United States appreciates the work by the Chair of the Standing Committee and the Secretariat to consolidate comments from parties and propose a way forward, given that the Standing Committee was unable to consider this topic at SC 78 due to time constraints. But the United States does not support the adoption of the proposed revised draft decisions. And as we noted in our response to notification to the parties 2025/022, we think the more appropriate path forward would be to encourage parties that use the exemption to advocate as appropriate with intergovernment and non-governmental organizations and entities for the voluntary use of clearly visible printed labels or printed packages to allow for the verification that final cosmetic products are derived from artificially propagated specimens. We believe that such voluntary use of clearly visible printed labels or printed packages will enhance the ability of law enforcement authorities to make admissible decisions. Thank you.
Switzerland, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. We would like to second the Secretariat's comment and also the UK and the USA comment. Thanks, Madam Chair.
I would like to hear more views from the floor. Tanzania, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The United Republic of Tanzania would like to align itself with the comment from the Secretariat.
Senegal, you have the floor. Senegal, you have the floor.
Ah, I'm sorry. Merci, Madame la Présidente. Le Sénégal se joint aux observations, aux conclusions du secrétariat et des commentaires des États-Unis.
I open the floor to non-parties and observer organizations, but I still want to continue hearing from the floor. Okay, I've seen no request from the floor. So I've heard that EU and its 27 member states wants to revise the decisions, to keep the revised decisions. But I also heard from 5 parties, Switzerland, US, UK, Tanzania, and Senegal, that supports Secretariat's comments to not adopt the revised decisions. So going back to the 5 parties that have wanted to actually, delete this revised decisions, I just want to go back to you if there's strong objections to keeping it, the revised decisions, and then we deal with it intersessionally. Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I wonder if rather than asking for those views, which would obviously be helpful, we were leaning towards also opposing the renewal of these decisions, but we would wonder if the range states might be able to offer any compelling need for more time to evaluate the impact of this annotation, that we would be listening for those views. Otherwise, we were inclined to also oppose the deletion of these decisions. Thank you, Chair.
Canada, just to make sure I heard the right thing, so Canada is supporting the deletion of the decisions?
We would oppose the renewal of the decisions, sorry to clarify, but I was wondering if we might like to, you had called upon parties to indicate whether we would re-examine the parties that had spoken about the opposition to renewing, but I wonder if we might also invite parties to indicate, particularly range states, to indicate what value there would be in the renewal of the decisions. Thank you.
Range states of the orchid specimens, can I get some views from you? Because I think it's Asia and Africa, and I have not heard from Asia. Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Japan opposed to the decision. We are for the 5 other countries echoes the Secretariat. Thank you.
China, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. China finished our assessment for the impacts, and we think at this stage we fulfill the decisions, and we support the comments from the Secretariat, and and I think there's not time for us to renew the decisions. Thank you, Chair.
Republic of Korea, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Republic of Korea fully agrees with the Secretary's comments to delete the decision. Thank you, Madam Chair.
So European Union, we've heard from the range states, some of the range states, so I just want to round back to you to see if you're willing to compromise to actually delete the revised decisions, or you need some time to reflect and then I can come back to you. European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you. I suppose really we might explain why we feel the decisions should be renewed is that many of the responses to the notification said that these species are now exempt, so they were collecting no data on them. What we felt was that the only exemption that could apply to these species if they were clearly labelled as artificially propagated. If they were not clearly labelled as artificially propagated, they would still be covered by the convention. So we felt the answers and responses to the notification were not in response to the questions asked. We felt that people were just allowing the products and the species to be exempt without the clear labelling. So I suppose we're pushing for this extra round of notification to highlight that you can only exempt these species in these products when they're clearly labelled. So that's a little bit of reasoning why we didn't want it deleted. But I suppose if parties are, I mean, we're really the sole voice in the room here, and we would just maybe, if, you know, we'll go with the consensus. However, then we would like to propose a new decision directed to the Plants Committee with the recommendation to look at the drafting of a footnote similar to the existing P3 footnote for Orchidaceae that would explain what is needed to satisfy the condition derived from artificially propagated, as an example. And we need sort of the example of the clearly visible label on finished product as suggested by the Secretariat in the working document 108 under point 14. Thank you.
European Union, can I request that you read out the new draft decision?
So we would propose a new draft decision directed to the Plants Committee to look at the drafting of a footnote similar to the existing P3 footnote for Orchidaceae that would explain what is needed to satisfy the condition derived from artificial propagation.
European Union, could I suggest that you come back with a proposed text? I'll come back to you. I'll take other parties now, so I'll come back to you later on. India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. India was of the view that the main implementation challenge for the exemption in annotation 4G is verifying whether the finished cosmetic products are exclusively derived from artificial propagated plants or not. Further, India wishes to highlight here the paragraph 23, line 3, CoP20 Doc 108. It has been indicated that Gastoda elata has been recently classified as vulnerable species by IUCN. However, this IUCN assessment is not recent, but conducted in 2004. Therefore, the current conservation status of the species remains uncertain. It is imperative to reassess the conservation status of Gastodia elata also. Thank you, Chair.
European Union, are you ready? Please go ahead if you are. Thank you.
Okay, so we would have a new decision directed to the Plants Committee. The Plants Committee shall look at the drafting of a footnote similar to the existing P3 footnote for Orchidaceae that would explain what is needed to satisfy the condition derived from artificial propagation.
Can you say it out slower?
Oh,
Thank you.
I'm sorry. The Plants Committee shall look at the drafting of a footnote similar to the existing P3 footnote for Orchidaceae that would explain what is needed to satisfy the condition derived from artificial propagation. Thank you.
Sorry, one more time.
Okay, thank you. The Plants Committee shall look at drafting of a footnote similar to the existing P3 footnote for Orchidaceae that would explain what is needed to satisfy the condition derived from artificial propagation.
Okay, thank you, European Union. So I will just read out and then I will get views from the floor. Thank you for the compromise. So the new draft decision will read, directed to Plants Committee, shall look at drafting of a footnote similar to the existing P3 footnote for orchidaceae, that would explain what is needed to satisfy the condition derived from artificially propagated. Oh, artificially propagation. So I open the floor for any strong comments to this draft decision. Okay, I do not see requests from the floor. So I think what we're moving towards is that we will not adopt the revised decisions in this document, but we will go with the new draft decision by the European Union. So I'll just read out again. Directed to Plans Committee shall look at drafting of a footnote similar to the existing P3 footnote for orchidaceae that will explain what is needed to satisfy the condition derived from artificial propagation. Okay, I see no request from the floor. So the committee has, so I will just read out what we are accepting. So the committee has considered the conclusions and way forward proposed by the chair of the standing committee contained in paragraphs 27 to 29, considered the comments received from parties following SC 78 contained in Annex 2, and then lastly, adopt the revised adopt the new decision on orchid specimens exempted through annotation number 4G as amended proposed by the EU, and delete the decisions in the, and delete 19.268 to 19.271. United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We just want to make sure that what the Plans Committee is doing is with the footnote is defining it for purposes for when the term is used in an annotation exception, just so that we can be very clear of what the Plans Committee will be doing. So defining it for purposes of when the term is used in an annotation exception.
European Union, can I just go back to you for clarification to the comment from the US? Thank you.
Thank you. Good night. I think we agree with the US that it would be an explanation or an additional footnote to the annotation.
So what I understand is that the Plans Committee will look at it. So I think there'll be further discussions at Plans Committee whether the footnote will be to explain. That's my understanding. So unless United States of America, you want to amend the language a little bit to make it clearer, United States of America, you have the floor.
Yeah, at the end of the edit by, or the amendment by the European Union, we can just say, for the purposes of defining the term when it is used in an annotation exception.
Can you repeat that again?
For the purposes of defining the term when it is used in an annotation exception.
Okay, I'll just read it out and see if it's to see if it's correct. So PCE shall look into the drafting of the footnote similar to the existing P3 footnote for Orchidaceae that will explain what is needed to satisfy the condition derived from artificial propagation for the purposes of defining the term when it is used in an annotation exception. Okay, so I want to see if there's any more comments. European Union, on the additional line, I just want to get feedback from you, European Union.
Yes, thank you. That would be acceptable to us. Thank you.
Thank you. So the committee agrees on this new draft decision as amended by the EU and US. Thank you very much. So I'll close this agenda item. Next, we will look at 109. 109, submitted by the Plants Committee. So the committee is to consider the information contained in the present document, the conclusions in para 11, and also delete decisions 18.323 Ref Corp 19 to 18.326 Ref Corp 19. So I open the floor to parties. China, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. China commends the efforts of the range states, particularly South Africa, in ensuring the sustainable use and management of aloe veros. The data indicates that the population is healthy and harvest remains sustainable. China notes the reported reduction in administrative burden and supports the proposal to delete the decisions. Thank you, Chair.
I open the floor to non-parties and observer organizations. Okay, I see no more requests from the floor. So the committee has considered the information contained in the present document and the conclusions in para 11. And the committee agrees to delete decisions 18.323 Ref Corp 19 to 18.326 Ref Corp 19. And I close this agenda item. Thank you. Next, we will go to 84. Agenda 84. The document submitted by the Standing Committee and the Secretariat. So we are looking to consider to maintain decision 18.116 and adopt new draft decisions in Annex 1. And also to delete decisions 19.115 to 19.122. So now I open the floor to parties. European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The EU and its member states acknowledge the CITES Secretariat, IUCN, African, Asian, rhino specialist groups, and traffic for their reports on the implementation of decisions on rhinoceros and Resolution Conf 914 Ref Corp 19 covering conservation status, legal trade, and illegal rhino killing. While rhino poaching has declined in recent years, parties, particularly those most affected, are encouraged to continue efforts to prevent poaching and trafficking. We welcome the recommendations of the CITES Rhinoceros Enforcement Task Force and supports their full implementation as proposed in 20AA, as well as the draft country-specific decisions for Indonesia to protect Javan rhinoceros given in 20BB. We also support maintaining Decision 18116 on demand reduction and illegal markets, and agree that Decisions 19115 to 19122 can be deleted as implemented or incorporated into the task force outcome document. Finally, the Czech Republic, as one of the EU member states, would like to draw the attention of CITES parties to CITES CoP20 in Doc 45, presenting the pilot project with electronic forms for collection and sharing of data on the rhinoceros horn seizures and on samples for forensic analysis developed to facilitate implementation of Resolution Conf 914 Rev COP 19. Parties are kindly invited to test the demo application and to provide their comments for possible use of the application in the future. Thank you, Madam Chair.
United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The United States remains greatly concerned by the continued rhinoceros poaching and illegal trade in rhinoceros specimens, especially the continued poaching in southern Africa and the theft of rhinoceros horns from a stockpile in South Africa, as well as the illegal killing of as many as 26 Javan rhinos in Indonesia since 2023. The United States thanks the Secretariat for its work in preparing the documents and supports maintaining Decision 18.116 and adopting the 4 draft decisions contained in Annex 1 to document CoP20, Doc 84, with a couple of amendments. With regard to draft decision 20.BB, we suggest adding text to the end, requesting that Indonesia report on the implementation of this decision to the Secretariat so that it aligns with the other draft decisions with regard to the reporting line to the Secretariat. With regard to draft decision 20.DD, we note that the IUCN traffic report prepared in line with paragraph 7 of Resolution Conf 9.14 Rev COP 19 contains valuable information and analyses, but there has not been sufficient time at this meeting to fully consider the 93-page report. We also see the need to consider additional credible information in developing timely and party-specific recommendations. Therefore, the United States proposes some amendments to this draft decision and an additional draft decision directed to the Standing Committee, and I can read that out if the Chair would like. Thank you. So this would be draft decision 20.DD. The Standing Committee shall establish an intersessional working group to subparagraph A, consider the information provided by parties to the Secretariat on their implementation of decisions 18.116, 20.AA, and 20.BB. Subparagraph B, consider the information contained in the report prepared by IUCN SSC African and Asian Rhino Specialist Groups and Traffic, contained in Annex 3 to document CoP20 Doc 84. C, consider other relevant published literature, peer-reviewed papers, and CITES reports. And D, based on a review of the information considered in subparagraphs A through C, develop targeted country-specific recommendations to the Standing Committee for actions to address the poaching of and illegal trade in rhinoceroses, and to the Secretariat on support for recommended interventions. And then the addition to it would be a new draft decision, so 20DD would be changed to 20EE, and it would add an additional instruction to the Standing Committee to consider the recommendations of the intersessional working group. Thank you, Chair.
UAE, I'll give you the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The UAE welcomes the present document and the report prepared by IUCN and Traffic, and commend the Secretariat for convening the CITES Rhinoceros Enforcement Task Force. We support the recommendation in Para 42 as it is. The UAE aligns with the strategic direction set out in the task force outcome document and supports its use as the primary operational framework for combating rhinoceros poaching and trafficking. The UAE is actively strengthening risk-based controls, international cooperation, and enforcement coordination in line with the task force priorities, including financial investigations, forensic cooperation, and joint operations with partner states. We stand fully committed to working with range, transit, and destination states to dismantle trafficking networks and support the recovery of rhinoceros populations. Finally, we don't support the amendment proposed by United States on 20.DD. Thank you, Chair.
South Africa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. South Africa appreciates the opportunity to address this agenda item and reaffirm its strong commitments to the conservation and sustainable management of rhinos under the Convention. We also wish to highlight the importance of international cooperation and coordinated enforcement. The Rhinoceros Enforcement Task Force, working with Interpol, the World Customs Organization, and the TWIX platform, plays a key role in linking range, transit, and consumer state. This cooperation enhances intelligence sharing and builds the capacity needed to disrupt the illegal trafficking networks. South Africa then, Chair, supported the recommendation as recommended in 42A and B, and also supported the decision as indicated in Annexure 1 of the present document. Thank you, Chair.
Indonesia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Indonesia thanks the Standing Committee and the Secretariat for preparing the document. With regard to the paragraph 22, Indonesia wishes to clarify that the reference stating 26 Javan rhinoceros were illegally killed is misleading and contentious. Monitoring of the Javan rhinos in Indonesia relies on a limited number of the camera traps placed at designated location and operated at the scheduled times. As a result, the presence of the rhino is not always consistently captured, and gaps in the record may occur due to the technical and logistical limitation. Despite our robust monitoring effort, obtaining precise number remains a challenge, given the vast conservation area to be covered. Therefore, the information regarding illegal killing cannot be verified. We therefore respectfully request the Secretariat to amend the narrative in the paragraph 22 and its annex, replacing the phrase "were illegally killed" with the "were unknown whereabouts" to more accurately reflect the situation. Furthermore, we request the deletion of the reference to the police investigation in paragraph 24. Indonesia remains firmly committed to conserving our two rhinoceros species. Monitoring has been strengthened through camera trap, with estimate the Javan rhinoceros population at 87 under 100 individuals between 2024 to 2025. Law enforcement efforts have also been intensified. In 2024, convictions were secured with a 12-year prison sentence for the killing of 6 Javan rhino between 2019 and 2024. While Indonesia welcomes the draft decision, we request that this clarification be incorporated into the existing document to ensure accuracy and fairness. We further propose that our request be duly reflected in the official meeting summary. And thank you, Chair.
Indonesia, I would just like to seek a clarification. Were you asking to amend para 20BB?
No, no, Chair. We welcome the draft decision.
Thank you, Indonesia. Vietnam, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Vietnam appreciates the work of the Standing Committees and the Secretariat in preparing the document In recent years, parties have made robust and substantial efforts in the fight against the illegal trade in rhinoceros, implementing a wide range of strategies, including legislative improvements, strengthened enforcement, demand reduction initiative, and enhanced international cooperations. Vietnam acknowledges and commends these collective efforts. Considering the wide and comprehensive scope of the strategies reflected in the outcome document of the CITES Rhinoceros Enforcement Task Force meeting, Vietnam therefore supports the recommendation to adopt draft decision contained in Annex 1 and to delete decision 19115 to 19122. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Malaysia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Malaysia welcomes the comprehensive report by the Secretariat and the outcomes of the CITES Rhinoceros Enforcement Task Force. Malaysia would like to seek clarifications on the term affected parties. Malaysia had our last rhino trafficking cases in 2021 and 2022. The definition is important so that countries that are not recently affected by rhino trafficking are not included in the decisions. Malaysia would like to suggest that the term of affected parties in Decision 20AA is clearly defined to ensure transparency and fairness. Thank you, Chair.
Tanzania, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The United Republic of Tanzania commends the Standing Committee for preparing this document, which reflects the outcome of the 78 Tanzania supports recommendations by the Standing Committee presented in paragraph 47 of the present document. The maintaining decision 18.116 and adopt the draft decision on the rhinoceros presented in Annex 1 will strengthen measures to combat poaching and the trafficking of the rhinos horns in parties where illegal markets for rhinos horns exist. Madam Chair, the cost of conserving rhinos based on the potential threats across the continent is very high. Meanwhile, the financial resources available to cater for conservation and protecting activities are limited because of the existing trade bans. The United Republic of Tanzania is of the opinion that rhino range sets wishing to engage in trade of rhinos parts and derivatives to leverage resources for conservation of the species should be supported and not be penalized. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, I'm just going to close the speaker list first because I heard support for the draft decisions and 18.116 and a deletion of 19.115 to 19.112 to 122. So I will take China, Kenya, Namibia, then I'll come back again. China, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. China appreciates the IUCN report and the work of the Secretariat and the Standing Committee. China put in place the ban of import, export, and domestic trade in rhino horn, and noticed that many parties have taken substantial measures for rhino conservation. We cannot support the proposed additions to decisions as made by US. We do not believe that such prescriptive and country-specific measures are required, as they duplicate efforts already in place, especially to the addition of DD point 3 on the country-specific measures. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Kenya, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Kenya appreciates South Africa and the Secretariat for convening the Rhino Enforcement Task Force meeting that was held in Pretoria. Kenya supports the draft decision contained in the annex of the present document with the amendments as provided by USA. Intersessional Working Group is important as it will ensure that technical work continues in the interim, considering the ongoing challenges with rhino poaching, horn trafficking, and illegal stockpile management. If so established, Kenya is wishing to join the intersessional working group. Thank you.
Namibia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Namibia appreciates the documents submitted by the Standing Committee as well as by the Secretariat. We support the document and we are fully implementing all the measures proposed in Document 84. Namibia has halved its rhino poaching within the territory in 2025 due to the implementation of additional measures such as dedicated wildlife courts and revision of anti-poaching measures. And thank you, Chair.
I open the floor to non-parties observer organizations. EIA USA, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Doc 84 and its accompanying Annex 3, which contains the report by the IUCN and Traffic on rhino conservation and trade, contains a wealth of information and analysis which describes the continuing complexity around the conservation status of the 5 rhino species. We welcome the outcomes of the CITES Rhino Enforcement Task Force meeting and are encouraged by the reduction in poaching in many range states. However, the report makes clear that organized criminal networks remain a major threat to African and Asian rhinos, with several range states still suffering intense poaching pressure. The white rhino population consists of an estimated 15,700 individuals, down 11.2% since 2023 and at its lowest point since the current poaching crisis began. Encouragingly, the black rhino population continues to increase. However, population growth has been slowed by poaching losses in Namibia and South Africa. In Asia, the critically endangered Sumatran rhino remains in a precarious status with potentially fewer than 3 dozen remaining, and the only wild Javan rhino population has been depleted by poaching to source demand for horns trafficked abroad. China remains a critical end-use market for rhino horn, with additional Southeast Asian countries, notably Laos PDR, apparently functioning as key consumer and transit states. Meanwhile, rhino horn stockpiles continue to contribute to the illegal trade, and poor stockpile reporting by some parties has left major information gaps and hinders effective oversight. We support the draft decisions in Doc 84, but feel that more discussion and robust analysis of the IUCN traffic report and information supplied by party reports is essential to leverage more targeted, impactful decisions. We therefore strongly support the recommendation by the US and Kenya to adopt a new decision to establish an intersessional working group to consider the findings of the report and make recommendations as appropriate. Thank you, Chair.
Conservation Force, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Conservation Force is a leader and has been a leader in an amount of tens of millions of dollars in rhino conservation. We'd like to be a member of the working group if one is established. And we'd like to join with Tanzania in a plea to the parties and all interests to help fund rhino conservation. Thank you.
Malaysia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Malaysia would like to echo China on the action directed to parties. Thank you.
Secretariat, I'll give you the floor to explain, to provide clarification to Malaysia on their question on the definition of affected. Secretariat, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, as presented in Annex 3 to the document, a comprehensive report was prepared for this meeting on rhinos. It includes in Table 11 parties most affected in terms of illegal trade volumes, which means the total weight and number of horns seized in seizures made by the parties or seizures in which the party was implicated. So affected parties would refer to the parties mentioned in that table, and in particular those highlighted in the document that are the 5 most affected parties. Thank you, Chair.
Saudi Arabia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We didn't support the amendment on the 20DD made by United States.
Saudi, can you just repeat again? I didn't hear properly.
We didn't support the amendment on 20DD.
Okay, so to round up, I hear good support for the draft decision as presented here, and also to renew the 18.116. On US edits, I've heard support from Kenya. So I would want to move on because I've only heard support from Kenya. United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We did not hear any opposition to our suggested amendment to draft decision 20.BB to request that Indonesia report to the Secretariat on implementation of the decision. So we would like to keep that amendment if it's amenable. Thank you.
Okay, so for 20BB, there was the addition of after poaching, then requesting Indonesia to report on the implementation of Decision 18116, 20AA to the Secretariat. So I just want to open the floor to parties if there's strong objection to this additional sentence, especially Indonesia, because it's poaching, then requesting Indonesia to report the implementation of the decisions 18116 and 20AA and 20 of this. Oh. My apologies. So it should be for 20BB, request Indonesia to report on implementation of this decision to the Secretariat. So only 20BB. Indonesia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, we welcome the draft decision amended by the US. Thank you.
Okay, so 20BB, we will include this edit. Like I said, for the new 20DD, I've only heard support from Kenya, so I will move on. Okay, so my decision would be for the committee to maintain decision 18.116, adopt the draft decisions with the proposed amendments by the US for 20BB, which I read out just now, and also delete decisions 19.115 to 19.122. Okay, I see no requests from the floor. I will close this item. Thank you. The next item is 89. 89 seahorses, submitted by the Standing Committee in consultation with the Chair of the Animals Committee. So it's to adopt revised decisions 19.229 and 19.230. And there's also draft decisions 20AA to 20EE. And then delete decisions 19.228, 231, and 232. So and also please look at the recommendation, the comments of the Secretariat, because Secretariat has done some edits as well to the decisions. So my suggestion is we look at the revised decisions 19.229 and 19.230 first. So we will look at the revised decisions 19.229 and 19.230 first. So I open the floor to parties. Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone. Japan would like to express its appreciation to the Standing Committee and the Animals Committee and Secretariat for their efforts in preparing this document and for the constructive discussion in the related working groups. We all support the recommendations contained in the document, including the draft decisions amended by the Secretariat. Thank you very much.
United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We support the revised decisions 19.229, Rev COP20, and 19.230, Rev COP20, with one small edit to improve the clarity and legal certainty, which I can read out now. This is to decision 19.229, Rev COP20. In paragraph little a, after the word CITES, we would like to delete the word regulations. And the reason for this edit is that the national plans of action should improve implementation of the treaty itself, and it's not clear what CITES regulations could or would encompass. Thank you, Chair.
India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. India thanks the Standing Committee for COP20 Doc 89. In India, all seahorses are protected under the Domestic Act and accords them high degree of protection. India, while noting and supporting the revised decisions 19.229 and 19.230 and the draft decision 20AA to 20E on seahorses as contained in annexure to the COP20 Doc 89. At the same time, India would like to emphasize that implementation of decision would also depend on resources and capacity of parties. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so I would now like to hear views on the draft decisions 20AA to 20EE. I did hear from India their support as well. So draft decisions 20AA to 20EE, but also take note that the Secretariat has minor edits to 20CC. So your intervention, please also let me know if you support Secretariat's edits or the original version. Thank you. I open the floor now to parties. United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The United States supports the adoption of the draft decisions 20AA to 20EE, including the amendments proposed by the Secretariat in decisions 20CC and 20DD. Thank you, Chair.
I open the floor to non-parties and observer organizations. IUCN, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Seahorses have been in Appendix 2 for more than 2 decades, yet implementing CITES for the large dried trade remains challenging. Millions of dried seahorses enter international markets each year, caught largely in non-selective fisheries such as bottom trawls and gill nets. Much of this trade occurs illegally without required permits. Fishers in source countries report declining seahorse numbers, indicating that exports may be detrimental to wild populations. An increasing number of governments are making substantial efforts to regulate their seahorse trade, and the decisions in Document 89 will help move towards sustainable and legal trade in both dried and live seahorses. They renew efforts to address illegal trade, encourage seahorse national plans of action, and reflect the Animals Committee's important recommendations, including for monitoring programs to assess the effectiveness of trade controls. Should the proposed decisions be adopted, the IUCN Seahorse Specialist Group is prepared to support parties in their implementation. We have developed 2 guidance documents for making seahorse NDFs and are currently developing a template for national plans of action, practical and standardized guidance on monitoring wild populations, and advice on seahorse releases to safeguard wild stocks. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have no more requests from the floor. I'm just going to sum up. So the committee accepts the revised decisions to 19.229 with the edit by US, removal of regulations in little a, and draft decisions and 19.230 and draft decisions 20AA to 20EE and delete decisions 19.228, 231, and 232. Sorry, I'll just repeat again. So the committee agrees on the revised decisions 19.229 with the proposed amendment by the US in little a and 19.230 and draft decisions 20AA to 20EE with the Secretariat's edits for 20CC and 20DD and delete decisions 19.228, 19.231, and 19.232. I close this agenda item. Thank you very much. Next, we have document 55. 55 submitted by the Standing Committee. So we're invited to consider the definition of purpose code P and also amendment to Resolution Conference 12.3 in Annex 1. And also decisions contained in Annex 2 and delete decision 19.149. So I open the floor to parties. European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And the EU and its member states thank the working group for its work on the purpose of transaction codes. Regarding the recommendation under paragraph 13, letter A, we do not support the proposed definition of purpose code P and the amendment to the resolution CONF 12.3 on permits and certificates that is contained in Annex 1 of the document. We believe that the current draft definition of purpose codes P is overly complex, and it introduces additional or stricter conditions for authorizing trade. In particular, the requirement that the specimen be not intended for commercial trade after import, export, and re-export may not align with the standard practices, especially for Appendix 2 species. Therefore, we propose continuing the work on the definition to adopt a simpler, more practical definition that can be easily applied in the everyday trade. To this end, we support the recommendation under paragraph 13, letter B, and the draft decision that re-establishes the intersessional working group. We also support keeping the purpose of transaction P in the mandate of the working group. And finally, we support the recommendation under letter C and the deletion of the decision 19.149. Thank you.
Russian Federation, you have the floor.
Спасибо, госпожа председатель. Мы поддерживаем предлагаемую поправку к резолюции 12.3 в части определения кода назначения P. В отношении проекта решений 20XX пункт B Российская Федерация считает, что приоритетное внимание целесообразнее уделить кодам Z и B. Спасибо.
Switzerland, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We align ourselves with the position expressed by the EU. Thank you.
United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We support the proposed definition of purpose of transaction code P contained in Annex 1, although we suggest the word use following commercial in the definition rather than the word trade, as we consider it to be more accurate by clearly defining the scope of personal use as including intended use in the country of import. We agree with the Secretariat's suggestion to remove purpose of transaction code P from 20XXB if the proposed amendments to include the definition in Resolution Conf 12.3 Rev CoP 19 is adopted. We support adoption of the draft decision contained in Annex 2 of the document, particularly Decision 20XXB, which prioritizes efforts to define purpose of transaction code B. We note there may still be value in giving appropriate considerations to further discussion of the overlap between the purpose of transaction codes that describe physical locations and purpose of transaction codes that describe activities, as there was insufficient opportunity to explore this issue during the last intersessional period. We would like to note that purpose of transaction code Z has been previously defined and adopted at the COP19. This purpose of transaction has already been subject to exhaustive discussions, and we see little value to reopening discussion. Therefore, we do not support prioritizing purpose of transaction code Z. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I open the floor to non-parties observer organizations. Asia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. This intervention is on behalf of the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, the European Association of Zoos and Aquaria, the World Association of Zoos and Aquariums, and the Wildlife Conservation Society. The CITES parties have been working on defining purpose codes for many years, and progress has been slow. The most recent progress on this issue led to a consensus definition of Purpose Code Z adopted by the parties at COP19. We fully acknowledge that Purpose Code Z, like others, can be subject to misuse, and we encourage parties to exercise appropriate due diligence in this regard. Reported issues related to misuse of this code are not due to the definition itself, but rather due to incorrect application of the code, or more fundamental issues related to CITES implementation. We fully support addressing any misuse of source or purpose codes. However, reopening and renewing debate on the Z code will distract from the work that remains on other codes that have yet to be defined or even discussed despite more than a decade of work. To continue to make progress on this long-standing effort, we support the United States and urge amendment of the proposed draft decision by striking reference to Purpose Code Z. This will allow the working group to focus on the remaining 4 undefined codes. Thank you, Chair.
Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Canada agrees with the intervention from the United States of America, including the edits. In particular, we also agree to not revisit Purpose Code Z. Thank you.
Australia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Australia would align with the views just expressed by Canada, Australia chaired the previous intersessional working group between COP18 and COP19 that landed on that definition for Purpose Code Z, and I just did want to make sure that everyone was aware it was a very, very well discussed purpose code and a consensus view of the working group and of the COP. So our preference would be not to re-prosecute the definition of a Purpose Code Z, although we do acknowledge some of the concerns that have been raised around the use of Purpose Code Z. To our mind, the problem isn't the definition itself, but its application. Thank you, Chair.
China, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will be very brief. As we record during SC 77 different parties and observers share different views on purpose code Z, which is a very clear indicate that this purpose code is both important and its definition should be made clear to everyone so that we can reach a consensus. So China supports the continued debate on purpose code Z. Thank you.
United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I just want to recall that prior to COP19, the CITES only had one definition, one purpose of transaction code defined, which was H. A lot of work, as Australia has said, was made over that intersessional period where we're able to define Z, M, E, N, and L. There still remains very important purpose of transaction codes that are not defined, and the United States strongly feels that the parties should spend their energy on defining those codes before we start to relitigate some of the other codes that were only adopted 3 years ago.
European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for some giving some clarification to the parties here, is that we feel that the mandate of the working group should focus on purpose code B, but as these codes might be interlinked, so purpose code B and Z, we might have some information that comes out of that discussion that we want to take with purpose code Z, and some changes might be warranted due to that discussion. So we still feel that there should be an option also to discuss Z. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So so if we look at 13A on the proposed definition of purpose of transaction code P, I did hear from the European Union that work has been done, and so they do not agree, as in they do not agree on the proposed definition, and more discussions will be required. But I also heard from other parties that this work has been done, and there is no need to further the work. So I'm just thinking because I do not want to open a long debate here. Like I said, I only have a morning to finish all the agenda items. So my suggested way forward is that we put it back to the standing committee for further discussion. So I want to see if there's any objections to my way forward for purpose transaction code P. United States of America, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you so much, Madam Chair. I heard the concerns from the European Union, and I wanted to check with our edit from removing trade and inserting use. Does that alleviate any of their concerns? Because we have worked pretty hard on this purpose of transaction codes over the last 3 years, and the United States would really want to support adoption and moving on to additional undefined codes. But if they have considered our edit, and does that alleviate any of their concerns?
European Union, you have the floor.
We want to thank the US for their proposal. However, changing the word trade to use doesn't really make sense to us, in the sense that we would stay with our position that it doesn't, the intent after the import and export that may not be in line, especially for the Appendix 2 species. So we do not feel that the change of the words that we could agree upon.
So I will want to check the floor again if there's, because again, you know, there doesn't seem to be agreement. So okay, United States of America, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you so much, Madam Chair. Then the United States would like the intersessional working group to work on purpose of transaction code P as the top priority of the intersessional working group. Thank you.
So which means that in 20XX little b, it will be with purpose code B plus P as a priority. So any objections to that? Okay, so I don't see any requests from the floor. We can move to 13B, which is the draft decision 20XX, because I did hear a lot of comments on removal and retaining of Z. And I did hear that Z should be retained because there may be implications to B. But I did hear that Z has already been completed, as in the definition itself has already been completed. It's just that it could involve discussions in B. So there is suggestion to remove Z. So I would like to hear if there's any strong objection to removal of Z. Australia, you have the floor.
Sorry, Chair, I'd press my button just to offer some clarity on the thinking in the working group when we originally prioritised Z. The reason that we didn't prioritise B at that time was we were concerned that there may be some crossover. So while Australia's strong priority is to not re-prosecute the definition of Z, I think we can accommodate the EU's note about the fact that there might need to be some minor edits to that to accommodate the definition of B, which we agree should be a priority, but we also would align ourselves with the US. I think there has been considerable work over 2 interstitial periods now on Purpose Code P. The working group that Australia chaired had come to 2 definitions on that matter. The one in front of us is the simpler of the 2, actually. So I think if we can offer a compromise, if we can prioritise Purpose Code P, Purpose Code B, and just acknowledge that the definition of Purpose Code Z is settled but may need some slight modification depending on the discussions on B, I think that would be something we could accommodate. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Australia. So I'm proposing a edit. So I just want to see if parties are agreeable so that we still include Z. So that means the working group shall continue the discussions on purpose codes Q, B, G, P, S with purpose code P and B as a priority and consider Z as needed, and consideration of Z as needed. Is that United States of America? You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really like the language that was proposed by Australia, that the purpose code Z has been defined, yet may need minor modifications depending on the outcomes of the working group, so that we're not starting from scratch for Z. So I really liked how Australia had proposed. Maybe they can repeat it if needed.
Australia. So you're okay with my language, or?
I was just thumbs up to the US's just repetition of suggestion of minor modifications may be needed depending on the deliberations of the working group.
Okay, so it would be with purpose code P and B as a priority and minor modifications to definition of Z as needed? Or United States of America, do you have a language that you, is that okay, or, yeah, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think after you say with purpose code P and B as a priority, purpose code Z is defined but may need minor modifications depending on the deliberations of the working group.
Thank you. So what I have is, so after with purpose code P and B as a priority, purpose code Z has been defined and may need minor modifications depending on the discussion of purpose code B. Okay. So I'll repeat that again. So for draft decision 20XX, little b, the last sentence with purpose code P, so addition of P and B as a priority, and then purpose code Z has been defined and may need minor modifications depending on the discussion of purpose code B. I would like to see if there's any strong objections from the floor. United States of America, you have the floor.
Yeah, can we just say remains defined so that it remains defined and may need minor modifications dependent on the working group, if necessary.
Okay, so I have purpose code Z remains defined and may need minor modifications if necessary depending on the discussion of purpose code B. Any objections to that? Okay. If not, so the committee adopt the draft decision on purpose of transaction codes contained in Annex 2 with the proposed amendments from the floor, and also delete decision 19.149. Okay, I will close this agenda item. Thank you. Okay, apologies. I'm going back to document 55 again. So previous document 55, I just want to be clear on what the committee has agreed. So I'll repeat again. the committee did not agree to the amendments to the amendments to Resolution Conference 12.3. So the committee did not accept the amendments to Resolution Conference 12.3 as contained in Annex 1. And we accepted the draft decision on purpose of transaction codes contained in Annex 2 with proposed amendments from the floor, and also delete decision 19.149. Thank you very much. I close this item. So next we have item 61. 61, the document is submitted by the Standing Committee. So we have draft decisions to consider in the annex, and also delete decision 19.160. And I also draw your attention to the comments from the Secretariat to the edits that they have done for the draft decisions. I now open the floor for parties. United Kingdom, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The UK supports the recommendations in Document 61 and continues to support the principle to better facilitate legal, non-commercial movement while maintaining oversight. In this regard, we would like to propose an amendment to Resolution Conf 16.8 on frequent cross-border non-commercial movements of musical instruments. Specifically, we propose to extend the validity period of musical instrument certificates from 3 years to 10 years. This would involve amending operative paragraph 1F. The paragraph would then read, a musical instrument certificate issued for a musical instrument be valid for a maximum period of 10 years to allow multiple imports, exports, and re-exports of musical instrument. Musical instruments are a lifelong possessions for musicians and orchestras, and their use spans decades. A 10-year validity period reflects this reality, reducing administrative burdens for management authorities and musicians, while maintaining oversight for these low-risk, non-commercial movements. This change would give parties flexibilities in their domestic implementation, allowing risk-based decisions. Thank you, Chair.
Singapore, you have the floor.
Madam Chair, Singapore welcomes the report prepared by the Standing Committee. Singapore has developed a set of simplified guidance materials on the rapid, non-commercial exchange of diagnostics and forensic research specimens, along with standardized email templates to help scientific institutions register for scientific exchange exemption under Resolution 11.15. We strongly encourage CITES parties to facilitate registrations of relevant scientific institutions, particularly WOA reference laboratories and collaborating centers in their country. This enables faster transport of registered and catalogued CITES diagnostic samples for disease testing. Copies of these guidance materials and email templates are available at our delegation desk, and we welcome delegates to approach us for them. Singapore supports the recommendations as presented in the document. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Malaysia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Malaysia support the adoption of the draft decision in Annex. With the deletion of decision 19.160, Malaysia would like to make edits in the Annex, in particularly 20DD, directed to Standing Committee by adding little c. Can I read the edits, Chair?
Yes, please.
Consider the need for guidance on simplified procedure for parties under Decision 20CC to facilitate the efficient international movement of wildlife samples for diagnostic purposes and/or conservation purposes, and the non-commercial movement of musical instrument for purposes of performance, display, or competition. Thank you, Chair.
Could you please repeat again?
(20DD, little c), consider the need for guidance on simplified procedure for parties under Decision 20CC to facilitate the efficient international movement of wildlife samples for diagnostic purposes and/or conservation purposes and the non-commercial movement of musical instrument for purposes of performance display or competition.
Malaysia, can I just get clarification? Because the guidance on simplified procedure is already considered in 20DD little b, so the Standing Committee shall review the one page of simplified guidance materials. So this is already in progress, so I need clarification on what is the purpose of the additional paragraph. If your concern is on diagnostic or conservation purposes, can we consider to fit the language somewhere in 20DD little b? I will move on first, you can reflect. Tanzania, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tanzania recognizes the importance of efficient movement of diagnostic samples for disease control and research, but emphasizes that simplified procedures must not weaken biosecurity or oversight. Decision on implementation should remain country-driven and consistent with the national legislation. While musical instruments are not a major concern domestically, Tanzania supports harmonized guidance that eases legitimate cultural exchange. Tanzania therefore supports the recommendations in principle, provided that implementation remain voluntary and respect each party's regulatory framework and conservation priorities. Thank you, Chair.
I'm going to close the speaker list. So I have Senegal, European Union, Japan, Canada, United States of America, and Australia. Senegal, you have the floor.
Oui, merci Madame la Présidente. Le Sénégal soutient le travail qui a été fait par le comité et appuie les arguments développés par le Royaume-Uni et la Malaisie. Merci.
European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you. I speak on behalf of the EU and its member states. We support the draft proposed decisions as amended by the Secretariat and also the deletion of decision 19.160. We also support the suggestions by the United Kingdom to amend the resolution 16.8 and to extend the validity of the musical instrument certificate. Thank you.
Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We welcome the web page and simplified guidance material for better use of musical instruments certificates. Also, we support amendment offered by the United Kingdom concerning extending the period of musical instruments certificates to 10 years. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. As stated by Japan and the EU, we are also supportive of the UK proposal to extend the validity period. Thank you, Chair.
Canada, can I just confirm if you support the draft decisions?
Draft decisions. Yes, we are supportive. Thank you.
United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The United States does support the draft decisions in the document, and we did want to propose a new subparagraph A under Decision 20DD. Just it may be duplicative, and so I guess we'll throw it to the room. But we wanted the Standing Committee Intersessional Working Group to sort of have a focus on what they're going to look at to continue this work, and so we just wanted to add in after review the report of the Secretariat on the implementation of Decisions 20AA, including any activities under Decision 20BB, identify gaps and options to address specific challenges faced by parties and stakeholders in implementing exemptions and efficient movement arrangements. And then we wanted to also add in and consider the appropriate length of validity for certificates issued under Resolution 16.8 and make any recommendations to the 21st meeting of the Conference of Parties as appropriate. We are very interested in a possibly longer length of validity for these musical instrument certificates. However, this would be the longest permit that we have under CITES, and so having a permit valid for over a decade, we just need to think about more about what could be the benefits and or the drawbacks of that. We do see it facilitating. However, if a management authority changes, is that something, how is that permit remaining valid? Like, there's a lot of things to consider when issuing a permit for a decade. So we would like to have a little bit more deliberate discussions in the intersessional working group.
Can you repeat your edit again? Thank you.
Yes, Madam Chair. So it's following implementation of Decision 20AA. It would say, including any activities under Decision 20BB, comma, identify gaps and options to address specific challenges faced by parties and stakeholders in implementing exemptions and efficient movement arrangements, comma, and consider the appropriate length of validity for certificates issued under Resolution 16.8 and make any recommendations to the 21st meeting of the Conference of Parties as appropriate.
Australia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Australia supports the recommendations in the paper as amended by the Secretariat. On the discussion we're having on the floor, we don't in principle have any issue with the UK's suggestion about the extension of timeframes for musical instrument certificates, but I do think, now having heard the US's edit, I think perhaps that might be the best way to go and have that considered as part of the intersessional process. So I would support the second half of the US's suggestion. I'm a little wary of lots more work on this matter, having chaired this intersessional working group this period, but I do see some value in the US's suggestion that we look at some specific challenges. So I think we could support the entirety of the US's amendment. I did want to reflect back on Malaysia's suggestion, their amendment to 20DD, with the additional asking the Standing Committee to consider additional guidance. From my perspective, the Standing Committee has considered the need for additional guidance, and that's why we drafted 20CC, asking the Secretariat to prepare that guidance. So in my view, the Standing Committee has already passed on its views on the need for guidance, and its view is that the one-page or simplified guidance materials is the right appropriate development approach for guidance in this. So understanding Malaysia's views, I think we've already kind of captured them in the recommendations from the Standing Committee on this matter at this meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Australia. Malaysia, I'm coming back to you. So as mentioned, I think it's already in 20DD little b.
We do think that it is sufficient enough for the amendments not to be there because it's already included. Malaysia would collaborate, maybe looking into what Singapore guidelines already have been drafted to be also be reviewed under the national SOP or guidelines for us to further extend to our researchers on the guidance. Thank you.
Okay, so coming back to the extension of the validity of the certificates, which was proposed by the UK from 3 years to 10 years under Resolution 16.8, I do sort of agree that this was just raised now. It's not discussed at all at Standing Committee, and parties, I think they don't really have a chance to feedback now, and I don't have the time to debate. So I would go with the suggestion by the US that let's take this up because different parties may have different views. Okay, thank you. So I'll just come back with the language again. United Kingdom, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We wanted to raise this amendment at this stage as it relates to topics already under discussion, and we wanted to seek the views of the committee. But if parties would rather, we can pick this up in the intersessional period. We did want to make one suggested edit to the US's intervention to make clear that the intersessional period is looking at the validity and the use of such certificates. Thank you.
So I will read out the amendments to 20DD. So the amendment to 20DD little a, after N, it will read, including any activities under Decision 20BB, identify gaps and options to address specific challenges faced by parties and stakeholders in implementing exemptions and efficient movement arrangements, and consider the appropriate length of validity and use of certificates issued under Resolution Conference 16.8. And make recommendations to COP21 as appropriate. So I'll read again. And including any activities under Decision 20BB, identify gaps and options to address specific challenges faced by parties and stakeholders in implementing exemptions and efficient movement arrangements, and consider the appropriate length of validity and use of certificates issued under Resolution Conference 16.8 and make recommendations to COP21 as appropriate. United Kingdom, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We can agree with that as the way forward. We just wanted to ask parties now if, in the interim, whether extending the validity period to 5 years might be acceptable, and then we can review that in the intersessional period as well. So just to seek parties' views on whether just going for 5 years might be more acceptable at this point. Thank you.
United Kingdom, I honestly don't think it's fair to ask the parties now. I don't think they have the time to consider the last 10 or 20 minutes of the discussion. So I really want to take this up at the standing committee, if I really appreciate. Yeah, thank you very much. I will now open the floor to non-parties and observer organizations. League American Orchestra, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very pleased to briefly comment on behalf of musical instrument stakeholders referenced in Information Document 34. Musical instrument stakeholders have appreciated the opportunity to participate in the working group. When CITES permits are required for non-commercial movement of older musical instruments for travel to performances, musicians encounter significant difficulty identifying parties that honor the musical instrument certificate and in navigating the complex process for having the document stamped by CITES recognized authorities at each border crossing. The most effective way to minimize the burden of permit processes is to appropriately exempt non-commercial movement of musical instruments from permit requirements during the listing and annotations process. Continued improvement of existing procedures for those species currently regulated under CITES will benefit both musicians and parties alike. We support the UK's recommended amendment to Resolution 16.8 to extend the maximum validity of musical instrument certificates. We also agree, as noted by the US, that action on the draft decisions in the annex to Doc 61 can lead to further possible improvements to relevant resolutions. We stand ready to partner with the parties in the intersessional period to gather essential information about the implementation of permit requirements and exemptions, identify relevant challenges parties and stakeholders are facing, and develop resources to better support non-commercial movement of musical instruments. Thank you.
United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know you did not want to open discussion on the UK's comment, but we would like to note that the United States would be supportive in the resolution of just changing it from 3 years to 5 years, and so the intersessional working group can sort it out from there, but having that change made at COP20, we would be supportive of.
I'm not going to open the floor for this discussion again on the length because, like I said, I think it is fair for parties to have a chance to think about it and then consider the length of the validity period. European Union, like I said, I do not want to open the floor again to discuss this. If you can take the floor if you want, but I don't want to discuss on the length of the validity anymore. Yeah. Thank you, European Union. So I will now go through what we have decided. So the committee is agree on the draft decisions edited by the Secretariat and amendments by the floor in the annex, and also to 20DD little a, and also delete decision 19.160. So the committee agrees to the draft decisions edited by the Secretariat and also the amendments by the floor for 20DD little a and delete decision 19.160. Thank you, and I close this agenda item. Next item, 62. This document is submitted by the Standing Committee. And we are looking to renew the decisions 19.61, 62, 63. I open the floor for parties. United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Recognizing the growing relevance of biotechnology to the conservation and trade of CITES listed species, the United States supports the renewal of decisions 19.61 and 19.62 Rev COP20 as is, but we would like to propose an amendment to decision 19.163 Rev COP20. I'm happy to talk about the amendment.
Pakistan, you have the floor.
There is no doubt that certain biotech products can reduce the pressure on wild species by offering alternatives. Moreover, there is a growing understanding that biotech products are developing faster. However, there are regulatory gaps which undermine conservation goals. There are certain potential issues. For example, criminals could exploit the gaps, especially in developing countries like Pakistan with limited resources and technology, to differentiate between real wildlife products and biotech products. Moreover, such biotech products could increase demand by expanding markets for previously restricted wildlife products, and there is every likelihood that real wildlife products could be disguised as synthetic ones. We believe that guidance from the Animal and Plant Committee is needed on whether such biotech products should be considered as specimen under CITES. Similarly, guidance is also needed on whether synthetic materials should be regulated or otherwise. And finally, what sort of criteria should be used for identification of such biotech specimen? In light of above, we do support the renewal of decision 19.161 to 19.163 of this document. We urge that the Standing Committee, in close collaboration with the Animal and Plant Committee, continue to discuss trade in products of biotechnology. Thanks.
Yeah, United States of America, I understand you want to edit to 163. You can read out your edit.
Thank you. We propose deleting, in the second sentence of the decision, we propose deleting, including the Biological Weapons Convention, the Secretariat of the Convention on Biological Diversity, and so on until the end of the sentence. We would like to propose just adding a full stop after relevant entities.
Thank you. Lesotho, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for giving me the floor. The Kingdom of Lesotho expresses its appreciation to the Standing Committee, the Animals and Plants Committees, and Secretariat for their efforts on this complex and emerging matter of specimens produced through biotechnology. Chair, Lesotho recognizes that biotechnology is rapidly evolving and increasingly intersecting with the trade of biological materials. For countries such as Lesotho, the absence of clear guidelines, for example, on identification and traceability issues, presents real challenges for enforcement by the scientific authority and for the customs officers who have to make determinations at the border. We therefore view this agenda item as critical and necessary. We acknowledge the Secretariat's concern that lack of funding significantly constrained the ability to convene the required discussion and develop guidelines under Decision 19.163. We therefore support that the renewal of the decision be made for the next intersessional period. Thank you, Madam Chair.
India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. India has the view that biotechnology issues concerning animals and plants need to be addressed distinctly. Additionally, guidance on the application of source codes to specimens produced through biotechnology would be beneficial for the parties. Also, to ensure a clear link between a specimen produced through biotechnology, guidance on traceability issues to improve permitting and enforcement of trade in specimen produced through biotechnology would be beneficial. We therefore support the renewal of Decision 19.161 to 19.163 as set out in the annex to the CoP20 Doc 62. Thank you, Chair.
China, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We believe it is extremely important to understand the progress of the issue within a larger framework, and we need to be aware of other circumstances, including like the CBD, IUCN, FAO, etc. So we recommend to keep the original text for the decisions to be renewed. Thank you, Chair.
Zimbabwe, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Zimbabwe also aligns itself with countries which have supported the renewal of the decisions 19.161 up to 19.163, especially the invitation to be extended to all the relevant entities dealing with this same subject, biotechnology. It's an issue that cuts across different sectors, and it's important that it be as inclusive as possible. Thank you, Chair.
I now open the floor to non-parties and observer organizations. Okay, thank you. So I've heard, so US has proposed for the removal of the entities, like the biological weapons convention, the whole lot. But what I'm hearing from the other parties who spoke is that they support the draft decision as presented. So I just want to round back to the US, you know, can we have a compromise here, or can we remove specific ones and then come back again? United States of America, you have the floor.
Yes, we believe that our edits will actually make it more inclusive and less prescriptive. However, in the spirit of compromise, we are willing to leave the list as is, except for the reference to the World Health Organization. Thank you.
Any objections from the floor? So we will just remove World Health Organization. I'm asking for objection to the edit from the United States of America. European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The European Union and its member states oppose removing the WHO from the decision. Thank you.
Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We also oppose removing WHO. We believe that this organization is very relevant to this discussion. Thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to take the last speaker, Zimbabwe, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We also oppose the removal of WHO, and maybe USA can explain the rationale behind their desire to have WHO removed from the list. Thank you, Chair.
So US, we noted the record that you have asked for the removal, so we will move on. So, okay. So the committee accepts the renewal of decisions 19.161 to 19.163. So the committee accepts the renewal of decisions 19.161 to 19.163. Thank you. I close this agenda item. Next, we have item 65. 65 is submitted by the Standing Committee. So we are to note the report of the Standing Committee and also delete 2 decisions. I now open the floor to parties. I open the floor to non-parties and observer organizations. Iran, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Islamic Republic of Iran thanks the Standing Committee and the Secretariat for their continued efforts in reviewing the caviar labeling system under Decision 19.175 and 19.176. As a key range state for estrogen species and a major global producer of caviar, Iran has always emphasized the importance of transparency, authenticity, and full traceability in international caviar trade. The current CITES labeling system has proven to be an effective tool in ensuring legal origin and supporting the conservation of endangered species. We support the committee's conclusion that replacing the current system with QR code is not yet feasible. Infrastructure challenges, implementation costs, and concerns regarding technological access, particularly particularly at border control points, are among the reasons for this position. However, Iran welcomes voluntary pilot testing by interested parties regarding the use of QR code as a supplement to the official labeling system. Such initiative could help gather practical data and facilitate future discussion. Iran also agrees with the recommendation to delete decision 19.175 and 19.176 as their objectives have been achieved. We remain committed to cooperating with all parties, the Secretariat and the Standing Committee to strengthen traceability systems, support legal trade, and ensure the sustainable conservation of sturgeon species. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Russian Federation, you have the floor.
Спасибо, госпожа председатель. Мы приветствуем проделанную работу и хотим отметить, что в Российской Федерации действует система цифровой маркировки, охватывающая рыбные консервы, а также икру лососевых и осетровых видов. Эта система основана на использовании QR-кодов. Вопросы маркировки регулируются на законодательном уровне, что обеспечивает строгий контроль за соблюдением всех требований. В случае внедрения QR-кодирования в международной торговле сообщаем, что Российская Федерация обладает техническими возможностями для его применения и в целом считаем возможным, пока кто не внедрил, иметь на рекомендательном уровне такую систему. Спасибо.
Okay, see no requests from the floor. The committee note the report and recommendations by Standing Committee and accepts the deletion of the decisions 19.175 and 19.176. I close this agenda item. Thank you. The next document is 32. 32 is submitted by the Secretariat. So the committee is invited to consider substantive but minor changes to 2 resolutions. And there's also draft decisions. So I will now open the floor to parties. Thank you. Mexico, you have the floor.
Perdón, gracias, señora presidenta. Este fue uno de los documentos que no se alcanzaron a discutir en el Comité Permanente 78 y la región de Norteamérica envió enmiendas a los borradores de decisión en respuesta a la notificación, pero no los vemos reflejados en el documento. Por ello, solicitamos una enmienda a la decisión 20AA en el Chapó para incluir que también se considere a los comités de flora y fauna a través de las presidencias, además del comité permanente. De esta manera consideramos que los comités pueden dar asesoría sobre los aspectos técnicos y científicos sobre el aprovechamiento sustentable y dictámenes de atracción no perjudicial que están mencionados en las resoluciones que se van a revisar. Si requieren la enmienda concreta, se las doy en un momentito.
Can I confirm it's Annex 4? Is it Annex 4 20AA?
Sí.
Aquí está la...
En el Chapó de la decisión 20AA, después del texto con el apoyo de la Secretaría, insertar el siguiente texto. Y en consulta con las presidencias del Comité de Flora y del Comité de Fauna, deberá y el texto como está. Gracias.
Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Canada would like to thank the CITES Secretariat for its work. And on this notification 2025-22, which the North American region responded to in agreement to the recommendations. Canada would like to suggest some edits to 28A as well. Sorry, Chair, I'm just going to reflect on what was just said and you can come back to me, to Canada. Sorry about that.
Panama, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias, señora presidenta. Panamá agradece el trabajo hecho por la Secretaría y desea apoyar las modificaciones hechas por la Delegación de México.
United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We support the intervention made by our North American colleagues from Mexico. And then we also have a few other edits within subparagraph A that I can read out. So after principles and guidelines, referring to the Addis Ababa principles and guidelines, 2, inserting new text, determine if they should be revised, 2. And then the next in subparagraph B, we have submit its recommendations along with any. And then new or revised resolutions, and then we have as appropriate. And then we want to specify that this should happen to the 21st meeting of the Conference of the Parties.
Thank you. Can you just read out again? Thank you.
So it would be Addis Ababa principles and guidelines to determine if they should be revised to reflect the most recent developments under the Convention on Biological Diversity and other relevant intergovernmental bodies, and then under B, submit its recommendations along with any new or revised resolutions as appropriate to the 21st meeting of the Conference of the Parties.
So to the 21st Conference of Parties. Okay.
Thank you.
Israel, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Briefly, we would support the United States additions, as this was more or less what we were going to say. We would just add one more clause, please, into A, where it says developments under the Convention on Biological Diversity and other relevant intergovernment bodies. We would wish to add a few words just saying, in the context of CITES and international trade in wildlife. Thank you, Chair.
Canada, I'm coming back to you. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We were just aiming to ensure that it's clear that the changes to the resolution should be party-led, given their focus. So we were just looking to propose in A, the deletion, sorry, in 20AA Part A, the deletion of other relevant intergovernmental bodies. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just read out all the edits by everyone so that we're on the same page, and then I will get some reflection again. So 28A, little A and B. So we'll start with the Standing Committee, with the support of the Secretariat and in consultation with the chairs of the Animals Committee and Plants Committee, shall review Resolution Conference 10.4 on cooperation and synergy with the Convention on Biological Diversity and Resolution Conference 13.2, sustainable use of biodiversity, Addis Ababa principles and guidelines, to determine if they should be revised to reflect the most recent developments under the Convention on Biological Diversity and in the context of CITES and international trade of wildlife, and submit its recommendations along with any new or revised resolutions to the 21st Conference for the Parties, as appropriate. If it's not clear or you want to make some edits, please press your button. Israel, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you for including our wording. It was just slight change. The word "and" does not refer at the beginning, and instead of wildlife, we could say wild flora and fauna, just to keep it in a CITES context. Is that clear, Chair? So it would read, under the Convention of Biological Diversity in the context, without the word "and" in there. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just repeat again. So, Addis Ababa principles and guidelines to determine if they should be revised to reflect the most recent developments under the Convention on Biological Diversity in the context of CITES and international trade of wild fauna and flora, and submit its recommendations along with any new or revised resolutions to the 21st Conference for the Parties as appropriate. I do not see any requests from the floor. Mexico, you have the floor.
Sí, gracias, señora presidenta. Solo tengo duda de si entonces se eliminó la referencia a las dos resoluciones que se iban a revisar. Si pudiera repetir de nuevo el texto, por favor.
Okay, so I'll read the 28A again. So it says, the Standing Committee, with the support of the Secretariat and in consultation with the chairs of Animals Committee and Plants Committee, shall review Resolution Conference 10.4 and Resolution Conference 13.2 on sustainable use of biodiversity, Addis Ababa principles and guidelines, to determine if they should be revised to reflect the most recent developments under the Convention on Biological Diversity in the context of CITES and international trade of wild fauna and flora, submit its recommendations along with any new or revised resolutions to the 21st Conference for the Parties as appropriate. Mexico, you have the floor.
Gracias, señora presidenta. A México le gustaría que se mantenga también el texto y otros órganos intergubernamentales relevantes, porque hay organismos como IPBES, por ejemplo, que han hecho evaluaciones de uso sustentable. Tenemos esto atendido en otros temas y de ahí podrían salir también elementos útiles para la actualización de estas resoluciones. Gracias.
Canada, I'm coming back to you to see if you can live with the language being there.
Thank you, Chair. I believe our concern was about making these being clear that we're referring to decisions taken by the CBD. So perhaps another way to formulate this would be after determine whether they should be revised to, we could add the wording update references to recent relevant decisions rather than reflect the most recent developments under. So then it would read, after the principles and guidelines, to determine if or whether they should be revised to update references to recent relevant decisions taken under the Convention on Biological Diversity, and so on.
So can I confirm that you're okay to for and other relevant intergovernmental bodies to remain.
That's right, but Canada would offer the precision of the references to the decisions of the CBD as alternate language to make sure that we know what we're referring to.
Canada, can I just confirm? Your amendment is after the guidelines to determine if they should be revised to update references to recent developments under the Convention on Biological Diversity and other relevant intergovernmental bodies. Can I confirm if that's correct?
That would be correct. However, we don't necessarily want to refer to the decisions of other relevant intergovernmental bodies per se, so that would have to be, just thinking how that could be adjusted. The point being that if we leave in the reference to the other bodies, we would like to retain the idea that it's the decisions of the CBD that would need to be reflected.
Canada, can I just confirm that your position is not to include and other relevant intergovernmental bodies, as in your position is still to strike out?
Sorry to create confusion. We had the preference for the addition of the language that I just introduced without the reference to the other, but we would concede that could remain. It just makes the wording a little awkward because the reference to the decisions is meant to be for the CBD. So we could maybe formulate it to something about, as well as considerations arising from relevant intergovernmental bodies, something like that. Perhaps others could offer better wording.
If I add as appropriate in the end, will it work?
Pardon me, sorry.
Mexico, you can have the floor.
Sí, era para ofrecer una propuesta alternativa. Entiendo que Canadá intenta reflejar el tema de las decisiones de CBD. Podría mencionarse después de Convention on Biological Diversity, including its decision or particularly its decisions, y después el texto and other relevant intergovernmental bodies.
Canada, can you live with that? So there's an insertion after Convention on Biological Diversity, including its decisions, and other relevant intergovernmental bodies.
We thank you to Mexico for offering this solution. We would have a preference for particularly, as opposed to including, but that would be acceptable. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just repeat again. Sustainable use of biodiversity, Addis Ababa principles and guidelines to determine if they should be revised, to update references to recent developments under the Convention on Biological Diversity, in particular its decisions, and other relevant intergovernmental bodies in the context of CITES and international trade of wild fauna and flora. Is that correct? Mexico and Canada, if Canada?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't see any more requests from the floor. So the committee accepts the amendments to Resolution Conference 10.13, Ref CoP18 on implementation of the Convention for Tree Species in Annex 1. The committee agrees to the amendments to Resolution Conference 11.11 on regulation of trade in plants in Annex 3. And we agree to the draft decision in Annex 4 with the proposed amendments from the floor as I read out just now. And I close this agenda item. Thank you. So now we are at document 33. Document 33 has been prepared by the Secretariat. So we are looking at agreeing to the amendments in Annex 2 and deleting decisions. So there's recommendations in para 8, A, B, and C. I open the floor to parties. United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. As with previous COPs, we oppose the Secretariat's intention not to include in the list of decisions in effect after COP20 any of the decisions adopted at previous meetings of the Conference of the Parties that are not agreed for continuation. We believe that the decision to delete a decision is an active determination of the Conference of the Parties and not merely a housekeeping exercise. With regard to the specific recommendations in the document, I'll take them one by one. With regard to decisions 17.108 Rev COP19 to 17.110 Rev COP19 on review of significant trade, the United States supports the Secretariat's recommendation that they can be deleted. With regard to decision 18.55 on cooperation on the Black Sea bottlenose dolphin, the United States supports the Secretariat's rationale and recommendation to include this subspecies in Resolution Conf 13.3 as one of the CITES listed species for which regional collaboration is already being undertaken or envisaged in the framework of CMS. In Annex 2 to Document 33, the Secretariat recommends incorporating the language from Decision 18.55 as it appears in the operative text of the decision. However, the text does not specifically reference T. ponticus. Therefore, we recommend that the new paragraph Little Roman 6 in Resolution Conf 13.3 be amended as follows. The CITES listed species of cetaceans in the Mediterranean Sea and the Black Sea, comma, including Black Sea bottlenose dolphin, parentheses, Tursiops truncatus ponticus, end parentheses, comma, in collaboration with the Agreement on the Conservation of Cetaceans of the Black Sea, Mediterranean Sea, and contiguous Atlantic area, parentheses, ACABOMS. With regard to decisions 19.71 to 19.73 on Malagasy timber species, although we remain concerned about the continued potential risk of illegal logging and associated trade in Madagascar, in the absence of specific concerns, the United States supports the Secretariat's conclusions that decisions 19.71 to 19.73 have been implemented and can be deleted. However, we seek clarification regarding the time frame by which Madagascar is expected to report a zero export quota for trade in specimens of Dalbergia spa and Diospyros spa to the Secretariat and the World Heritage Center, and request that confirmation of receiving that zero export quota be relayed to the Standing Committee. We also request that the report expected by February 2026 on Madagascar's implementation of the World Heritage Committee recommendations be shared with the Standing Committee for its review. We strongly urge Madagascar to promptly bring any instances of illegal logging and associated trade in these genera to the attention of the Standing Committee and the Secretariat so they can be quickly investigated and considered for additional action as appropriate. Finally, we invite Madagascar to voluntarily provide updates to the Standing Committee on the status of its efforts to address illegal logging and associated trade in these CITES listed species. With regard to Decision 18.209 concerning humphead wrasse, while it is regrettable that the Secretariat has not received funding during the last two intersessional periods to implement Decision 18.209, we do not believe lack of funding is a reason to delete the decision. We oppose the Secretariat's recommendation to delete Decision 18.209. We additionally note that there remain concerns with regard to trade in this species using source code R for ranching, which we are hopeful will be meaningfully addressed in the next intersessional period. Additionally, we note that the Conference of the Parties adopts decisions, in part, to encourage external funding and help prioritize the Secretariat's work. Finally, with regard to Decision 17.256, Rev CoP19, on African gray parrots, the United States supports the Secretariat's recommendation to maintain Decision 17.256, Rev CoP19, with the exception of subparagraph D, which we think can be deleted. Given the ongoing illegal trade in this species, we believe it is important that gray parrot range states conduct immediate and long-term science-based surveys to capture both baseline population data as well as population trends to help inform management. Additionally, the surveys and conservation actions will help to ensure that appropriate training and outreach are provided to communities, law enforcement, and customs officials. The Secretariat notes in the document that the Standing Committee at its 78th meeting noted the commitment of the Democratic Republic of the Congo to undertake population surveys and develop a management plan for this species, and encouraged its efforts in this regard. We understand that in August of this year, the Democratic Republic of the Congo passed a national decree prohibiting the trapping and trade of gray parrots, and we applaud it for this positive action. Finally, we also take this opportunity to urge parties to withdraw reservations to the Appendix 1 listing of this species entered after COP17. Thank you, Chair.
I open the floor to non-parties and party organizations. European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The European Union and its member states support the recommendation under letter A, the amendments to Resolution Conf 13.3 on cooperation and synergy with the Convention on the Conservation of Migratory Species of Wild Animals, CMS. Regarding the recommendations under letter B, we ask to maintain decisions 19.71 to 19.73 on Malagasy, Palisanders, and Rosewoods, updating the current reference to SC 76 and 78 meetings accordingly. We support the deletion of other implemented decisions mentioned under letter B. Regarding the recommendation under letter C, we support maintaining decision 17.256 on African grey parrots. Thank you.
Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Canada would support recommendation B about the deleting of the decisions there. However, regarding recommendation C and the decision 17.256, Rev CoP19, while we strongly support efforts to seek to ensure the recovery of this species, the African grey parrot, we're unsure whether the establishment of a national action plan would fall within the scope of the convention. More specifically, elements A, C, and D of this decision seem to fall outside of the mandate of CITES. So at this time, our preference would be to delete this decision. Thank you, Chair.
Israel, you have the floor.
Yes, briefly, Chair, on specifically on decision 17.256 on the African gray parrot, we support the United States to retain this decision, and we do not support Canada, who proposed to delete it. Thank you.
Brazil, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I would just have a minor amendment to decision to the recommendation to the resolution Conf 13.3. It's should I proceed?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Yeah, we would like to please include an item, a new that would read under. Let me see here. And it would be a new 7 to include a reference to jaguars, Pantera onca as well. I don't know if it was clear. Esse aqui, né? Onde é que é?
Okay, maybe I'll just go through Annex 2 first. So recommendations 8A, the amendments to Resolution Conference 13.3. So I did hear some edits, so I just want to go through the edits and just make sure there's no objection. So for Roman 6, CITES listed species of cetaceans in the Mediterranean Sea and the Black Sea, comma, including Black Sea bottlenose dolphins, and then parenthesis of the scientific name. Correct? That's the edit from United States of America. And then from Brazil, there's a new Roman 7, reference to jaguars. I just want to see if there's any objection to the edits to Annex 2. Okay, so that is settled. So then we come back now to the decisions. Madagascar, I think you asked for the floor. You have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Nous réitérons nos vifs remerciements à l'endroit du secrétariat pour ce rapport pour la suppression des décisions 19.71 et 19.73, et nous sommes tout à fait d'accord avec la proposition de suppression. Madagascar a fait beaucoup d'efforts par rapport à la gestion des bois précieux, et nous avons rapporté tous les efforts effectués par Madagascar. Et par rapport à la volonté de Madagascar de mettre le quota zéro, le gouvernement a déjà envoyé la lettre pour un quota zéro sur
l'exportation des bois précieux à Madagascar. Et nous sommes également favorables au rapport pour l'avancement des engagements effectués avec le Centre du patrimoine mondial, l'AUCN et le secrétariat de la CITES. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Okay, I'll just go through the decisions one by one just to make sure I've got it correct. So I think for 18.55, I think everyone agreed to delete decision 18.55. That's the cooperation on the Black Sea bottlenose dolphin. 17.108, review of significant trade, 17.108. I also heard support to delete it. Oh, 17.108 to 17.110. I did hear support to delete it. Okay. Then I go to 17.256, African grey parrots. 17.256. I heard from the US, EU, and Israel to maintain the decision. And Canada did not agree. So I think there's consensus in maintaining the decision, 17.256. Okay. And we go back to the Malagasy rosewood now, 19.71 to 19.73. 19.71 to 19.73. So I think US supported it and European Union wanted to maintain it. I just want to go back to European Union. Madagascar has provided some clarifications. I'd like to see your reflections as well. European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, for giving us the floor. We confirm what we said earlier in our position. We would like the decision to be maintained. Thank you.
I'll give the floor to the Secretariat.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Just to perhaps further clarify the rationale for the Secretariat's recommendation to delete these decisions. As you know, we have a process in the Standing Committee. This issue was discussed at the SC79 meeting just a couple of days ago. And there are recommendations directed to the Madagascar from the Standing Committee, and Madagascar is required to report to the Standing Committee at its next meeting. And there are also recommendations related to parties to bring, urging parties to bring any seizures of specimens to the attention to Madagascar and to the Standing Committee and the Secretariat, as well as several other specific decisions on this matter that have been agreed by the Standing Committee or adopted by the Standing Committee at its recent meeting. As mentioned by the delegation of Madagascar, the Secretariat has received the letter signed by the Minister on the zero export quota, and it was annexed to the document that was submitted to the Standing Committee. The Secretariat intends to issue a notification on this zero export quota as soon as the executive summary of the Standing Committee has been endorsed by the members of the Standing Committee. So we find that there is a there is duplication in having both the decisions and the process in the Standing Committee running simultaneously, and that was our rationale for suggesting the deletion of these decisions. Thank you.
United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We support the comments of the Secretariat just now and note that we have been in this process with regard to Madagascan timbers for more than a decade, and in the absence of specific incidents or concerns that we would want to address through retention of these decisions, we would continue to urge that they be proposed for deletion. Thank you, Chair.
European Union, I give the floor to you after, as the Secretary has already explained, there will be work continuing. So I would like to see your views.
Thank you for the Secretariat for the clarification. Just a quick note for the summary of this session. The European Union, that its 27 member states, supported maintaining decision 17.255 on African gay periods, so we would like it to be properly recorded in the summary. And given the room that is on now in the committee, we would not insist. We keep in decision 1971 to 1973 to be maintained, as we understand the explanation by the Secretariat. Yeah. However, it's needed to clarify timber stockpiles with the now zero export quota and the exemption under Notation 15 also being evaluated by the Secretariat. Thank you.
Okay, noted for the record. Thank you, European Union. So 19.71 to 19.73. It will be deleted. So sorry, I'll just go back to 17.256. So what I meant is US, EU, and Israel supported that the decision be maintained, right? Yeah, so US, EU, and Israel supported the decision 17.256 to be maintained. So the last one is 18.209, Hamid Ras. So I think I heard from the United States of America that it should not be deleted. Yeah, so I did not hear any other comments on opposing the deletion. So I just want to open the floor again for Hamid Ras, 18.209. Israel, you have the floor.
Yes, we would support the U.S. and ask it not to be deleted.
Can I get more views on 18.209, whether the decision, because Secretary recommends that the decision be deleted. So far, I've only heard from US and Israel for the decision to be maintained. European Union, can I just check with you again, because I think you were referring to the recommendations A and B. So I just want to check, did you support the deletion of 18.209? Because maybe I missed it. European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we do support the deletion of 18.209. Yes, the one we mentioned. Sorry, I have the wrong glasses on me. Thank you.
Any more parties who wants to maintain this decision, 18.209? Because I've only heard from US and Israel. No, I do not see any requests from the floor. So my decision will be to delete decision 18.209, but the concerns raised will be noted. So I'll go through the decisions again. So for decision 18.55, we agreed to delete. The committee agreed to delete. For 17.108 to 17.110, review of significant trade, the committee agreed that it can be deleted. (19.71 to 19.73, Malagasy Rosewood). The committee agrees that it can be deleted. 18.209, Hamhead Ras. The committee agrees that it can be deleted. 17.256, African Grey Parrots. The committee agrees this decision be maintained. Yes, that's all we have. So I will close the agenda item. Thank you.
Just a housekeeping announcement to inform you that now all the in-session documents, the COM documents, have been published on the website, including the last document, which was the Spanish version of the Budget Working Group report. So this committee should be ready to review the COM documents for this afternoon. Also to remind you that this committee has a few summary records to review, which are summary record COM Rec 6 onwards. Right now we have publication up to number 12, if I'm correct. Oh, 11, sorry. Thank you, Chair.
Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, the Secretariat. Would it be possible for you to share with us what is the plan for this afternoon session, the order of the documents that we are going to debate? Thank you.
Okay, so in the afternoon, we'll be doing COM 21, livelihoods, and then COM 23, sustainable financing for the elephants, and then COM 24, global strategy for plant conservation, COM 25, work and efficiency, COM 26, the cheetahs, COM 27, great apes, COM 28, pangolins, COM 29, saigas, COM 10, ETs, COM 16, ETs categorization, COM 11, tortoises and freshwater turtles, COM 12, endemic species, COM 13, amendment to resolution conference 12.3, COM 14, stocks and stockpiles, COM 15, CITES and forests. The last one will be budget working group, COM 17, the budget working group. And then I will go through the summary records right at the end. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. We have finished the agenda at least. So we will now try to go through all the working documents. Thank you very much and have a good lunch. Thank you.